What happens when a man's biggest secret, the one that really just shatters his whole moral universe, is hidden not from the world, but from himself?
That is such a fascinating, almost mind-bending question, and it's right at the heart of what we're digging into today. Walter Besant's novel, The Ivory Gate.
Yeah, we're peeling back the layers on this, well, sprawling mystery. It spans 8 years, involves family exile, a whole lot of suspicion, and this truly shocking financial crime.
And it all hides within, believe it or not, a case of dual identity. It's quite something.
So, our mission for you, the listener, is simple. We want to tell you this story vividly. Follow this determined young woman as she unravels a truth that impacts her whole family and a really prestigious London law firm.
It's a classic story, really, about reputation, the cost of secrets, and maybe those hidden parts of ourselves we don't even know exist.
Okay, so where do we start? To really get the weight of this, we probably need to go back to the beginning.
Exactly. 8 years ago, the moment the crisis first ignited, it starts with a crime that seems almost small, financially speaking, but the moral fallout is just huge.
Right, so paint the picture. We're in the offices of Mr. Edward Daring, a respectable London solicitor.
Very respectable, very rigid, and the crime itself seems quite mundane on the surface. A check is forged on the firm's account for £720.
720 pounds. Okay.
But the way it's done is meticulous, almost leisurely, the source says. The check's made out to an Edmund Gray, a name nobody recognizes.
And the payment.
Ah, that's key. The forger insists on getting it all in cash, specifically all in £10 notes.
Oh, 720 pounds in tenders. That's unusual.
Very. And it's crucial because it allows the bank manager later to identify those specific notes and stop most of them almost immediately. Smart, in a way.
But who collects the cash? Not the forger.
No, he uses a proxy. A one-armed commissionaire hired for the job.
A detail that stands out, I imagine.
It does. Apparently, the man was paid 10 shillings for what was usually an 18-penny job. And the person who hired him, described as an old gentleman staying at the Cecil Hotel, seemed totally unhurried, confident.
Okay, so money's collected, but before anyone can really trace it.
Mr. Daring, the head of the firm, points the finger instantly. He accuses his clerk, Athelstan Arundel.
On what grounds? What's the evidence?
And this is what's so disturbing. It's incredibly flimsy. The senior clerk, a man named Checkley, claims he found papers in Athelstan's drawer.
What kind of papers?
Imitations of Daring's handwriting. That's the term used.
Imitations, like practice forgeries.
Not even skilled ones, it turns out later. They were more like doodles, jokes, clerks are messing around, practicing signatures, that sort of thing. Office banter, basically.
So incredibly weak evidence.
Terribly weak. But Daring, described as cold, clinical, he seizes on it. He doesn't publicly charge Athelstan, mind you, but he makes his conclusion clear. Guilt is assumed.
How does Athelstan react?
He's outraged, protests his innocence, calls Checkley a villain and scoundrel, insists the evidence must have been planted, and then he just walks out, defiantly.
Walks out of his job, his life.
Everything. He leaves the respectable world behind, and he makes a point of showing he has exactly 10 pounds in his pocket, not the 720 pounds he's accused of taking.
Wow. So the moral damage here, it's immediate. What about his family?
Swift and unforgiving, especially his mother, Mrs. Arundel. She's called a practical woman of keen judgment.
And her keen judgment says.
Guilty. She is quickly convinced he must have fallen into evil ways, riotous living. It's less about the evidence and more about, well, her worldview. Daring is reliable, Checkley is reliable, so Athelstan must be the one who's wrong.
That's harsh. Any support from his sisters?
Well, the younger sister, Elsie, seems to believe him, but she's quite young then. The older sister, Hilda, is even colder than the mother in a way.
How so?
She actually sees Athelstan leaving, his self-exile, as merciful.
Merciful? To whom?
To the family's reputation. A brother convicted, sentenced, that would ruin the marriage prospects for her and Elsie. So his disappearance is convenient. They decide to just invent something, say he was wild, irresponsible to protect their social standing.
Unbelievable, the calculation involved.
It really lays bare the priorities, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And this brings us to a key point, something for you, the listener, to really grasp the sheer disproportion of it all.
Meaning?
Athelstan suffers maximum damage. Exile, social death, his own family turns on him. But the firm, Mr. Daring,
What was his actual loss, since the notes were stopped?
Exactly. The bank stopped those specific 10-pound notes very quickly. Deering got the 720 pounds back after 5 years. The source even calculates the actual financial hit, with compound interest at 4% over those 5 years.
And the grand total was?
A mere 155.19 shillings and 9 3/4 pence.
Less than 156 thalers.
Precisely. That tiny sum is the material cost to Deering. But the human cost is Athelstan's life, branded a criminal, cast out by his own family. That trivial amount becomes the foundation for this immense moral stain that hangs over everything for the next 8 years.
Okay, so fast forward 8 years, Athelstan has been gone all this time.
He kept his vow, didn't return until his family admitted they were wrong, but now he writes to Deering. And it's not a letter asking for forgiveness.
What's in the letter?
News of success. He didn't just survive, he thrived. Started with that 10 pounds, went to America, worked as a journalist in San Francisco, apparently made a fortune.
How much?
12,000 pounds. An incredible amount, starting from 10 pounds, and he sends it all back.
Sends it back. To whom? Deering.
No, not to Deering to keep. He sends it to Deering to hold in trust, specifically for his sister Elsie.
Elsie, the one who believed him.
The only one. He strips himself of everything he earned. It's this profound act of, well, honor, gratitude, vindication, proof.
You'd think that would clear his name instantly. 12,000 pounds.
You would think. But here's where Dering's mind, his rigid, legalistic mind, fails him. He admits he always felt uneasy about how Athelstan was treated.
Why?
But he reads this incredible act of generosity, not as proof of innocence, but as a very crafty letter.
Crafty? How?
Deering just can't believe it's possible. Starting with 10 pounds, ending with 12,000 pounds through honest means, it defies his sense of order. He immediately suspects gambling, or worse.
A second crime?
A second crime, or a series of crimes. That's his thought process. It shows how locked in he is. Athelstan must be guilty, so this money must be dirty. The original accusation just poisoned everything.
Wow. Meanwhile, what's happened with Elsie, the recipient of this fortune?
Well, she's facing her own kind of social disapproval. She's engaged to George Austen.
And the problem is?
He's a managing clerk at Dering's firm, earning only 200 pounds a year. Her family, especially her mother, sees it as completely unacceptable, a total waste.
Her mother, Mrs. Arundel, she's changed.
Dramatically. Since her husband died, she's become this calculating stock exchange operator. Money is everything to her now. She worships wealth.
So a poor son-in-law is unthinkable.
Absolutely. Her philosophy is stark. Life without money is miserable, wretched, intolerable. Elsie marrying George is madness. A squandering of Elsie's good looks and potential, especially compared to Hilda, who married, well, Sir Samuel Deering, in fact.
Sir Samuel, Mr. Dering's brother.
The very same. Rich, influential, so the contrast is stark.
It sounds like money, or the lack of it, is really warping this family.
Completely. Elsie and George even joke nervously about how poor they'll be. Tiny house, cheap food. Elsie admits she's scared of the reality of, scribbing pans, property, wealth. It's become this obsession that's poisoning the Arundels.
And all this time, the man who started it all, Mr. Deering. Something's happening to him, isn't it?
Yes, this is critical. He's 75 now, and the narrative really focuses on his mental state. It's declining. Worryingly so.
What are the symptoms?
The source is very specific. He talks about being troubled about my memory. He experiences these terrifying gaps. Days, hours, just vanish. He says, I cannot remember in the morning what I was doing the evening before. It's like parts of his consciousness are just evaporating.
That sounds serious, like medically serious.
It does. And this connects to the title, The Ivory Gate. In mythology, the gates of ivory are where false dreams, illusions pass through. Deering is stepping through that gate into these states of unreality, these gaps where something else is happening.
Does anyone notice? Does anyone help him?
Here's the thing. His senior clerk, Checkley, the same one who found the evidence against Athelstan, completely dismisses it.
Kelly, he's still there.
Still there, also 75. He acts as Dering's gatekeeper, almost. Deering mentions the memory loss, and Checkley just brushes it off. You eat hearty, so do I. Your memory's all right.
Why would he do that? If Deering is clearly struggling.
Checkley. He's a character in himself. Deeply miserly, secretly quite well off, a landlord, a capitalist on the side. Drinks rum at the Salutation Inn. He's driven by jealousy and fear.
Fear of what?
Fear of change. Specifically, fear of Deering taking on a younger partner like George Austen. That would reduce Checkley's status, his influence, and crucially, his share of the profits. So keeping Deering seemingly functional, even if he isn't, serves Checkley's purpose.
So he enables the decline in a way.
Exactly. The narrative even describes Deering sometimes just sitting there, vacant, like a machine that breathes, his consciousness gone somewhere else. He returns hours later feeling he's been somewhere doing something, but with no memory of it. He knows, dimly, he needs a partner before something worse happens.
Yeah.
His whole rigid identity is fracturing. #tag3, the second forgery and the smear campaign.
Something worse happens. That sounds ominous, does it?
No, absolutely. The potential danger Deering vaguely fears. It explodes into reality. Suddenly, it's not just 720 pounds. It's a catastrophe. A new crime. Much, much bigger. 38,000 pounds of Deering's personal investments are missing. Gone.
38,000 pounds? How?
Through forged letters sent to Deering stockbrokers, Ellis and Northcote, and a forged check. And guess what name pops up again?
Let me guess. Edmund Gray?
Edmund Gray, instantly linking the two crimes 8 years apart.
Is the forgery similar? The handwriting?
It mimics Deering's hand again, yes. But investigators notice something different. A slight trembling in the writing. The signature is subtly off.
Suggesting what? An older hand? A nervous one?
Or perhaps someone imitating Deering, but not perfectly. Someone under stress, maybe. Raises questions.
This must devastate Deering. 38,000 pounds of his own money.
It's the collapse of his world as he sees it. It pushes him into a deeper spiral. And it makes him decide, finally, he must take on George Austen as a partner. Now, for stability.
Ah, but that's exactly what Checkley doesn't want.
Precisely. Deering making George a partner, that lights the fuse under Checkley.
Does George suspect Checkley, or anyone specific?
George steps up here. He analyzes the crime very logically. The culprit needed several things. Deep knowledge of Deering's handwriting, access to the office, access to the safe where the share certificates were kept, knowledge of the brokers, and crucially,
What?
the ability to intercept the mail, to stop Deering seeing the confirmations from the brokers about the transfers.
Okay, so that points inwards. Someone inside the office.
Definitely. Someone with keys, someone who handles the post, someone like Checkley.
So does Checkley realize the suspicion might fall on him?
He must. And fueled by spite about the partnership and sheer terror about his own savings, if Deering's firm collapses, he goes on the attack. He launches this incredibly malicious smear campaign against George Austen.
Who does he target?
He goes straight to Sir Samuel Deering, Mr. Deering's rich, rather clueless brother, the one who married Hilda Arundel.
Right. What does Checkley tell him?
He plants the seeds of doubt. Says George had the opportunity, obviously. But more importantly, he had the motive. The strongest motive. Poverty. Checkley really hammers this point. Poverty was the motive. You couldn't have a stronger motive. He paints George as just another poor young man who couldn't resist temptation when faced with such sums. 200 pounds a year versus thousands.
That's low, playing on class prejudice.
Absolutely vicious. And then he connects the dots, falsely. He claims Athelstan did the first forgery, and the same hand did this new one. Therefore,
George must be Athelstan's accomplice.
exactly. George got inside the firm to finish the job his exiled brother started. It's a neat, poisonous narrative.
Does Checkley have any proof for this conspiracy?
He manufactures it, he starts spying, sees Athelstan, who is back in London now trying to help Elsie, meeting Elsie near Gray's Inn. Checkley twists this completely.
How?
He reports back to Sir Samuel that Athelstan is living this profligate life in Camberwell, hanging out with low company, reinforcing the idea that the Arundels are just inherently untrustworthy. He's confident George will be disgraced, the partnership will be stopped, and his own position secure.
It's pure projection, isn't it? His own greed and fear projected onto George.
Totally. He even admits, grudgingly, that the crime shows grasp and vision beyond his own abilities, a backhanded compliment to the forger's intelligence. But his real driver is protecting his own nest egg. If Deering fails, Checkley fears he'll lose everything too. The malignancy is just palpable. #tag Elsie's investigation and the shocking double life.
Okay, so Checkley and Sir Samuel are convinced they've got it figured out, this conspiracy between Athelstan and George.
Yes, building this completely false case based on malice and fear. Meanwhile, Elsie and Athelstan are actually pursuing the real clues.
What are leads?
Well, George Austen goes to the address linked to Edmund Gray, 22 South Square, Gray's Inn. And sure enough, the name is right there on the door.
She finds him.
No, that's one thing. The name's been there for years, apparently. But the tenant is completely elusive. Other lawyers in the building have never seen him, never met him. He's like a ghost.
What about Athelstan?
Athelstan gets the real breakthrough. He decides to track down the one-armed commissionaire from 8 years ago. the guy who collected the cash for the first forgery.
Does he find him after all this time?
He does, offers a big reward. And the man remembers it perfectly, especially that huge 10-shilling tip for an 18-penny job.
And does he remember the old gentleman from the Cecil Hotel who hired him?
Instantly. Athelstan arranges for the commissioner to discreetly observe Mr. Deering leaving his office one day.
Mm-hmm.
The commissioner identifies him without hesitation. He tells Athelstan simply, "If that was Mr. Deering that I saw yesterday, then he robbed himself."
Wow, he robbed himself.
The words just hang there. Athelstan is floored. The only possible explanation hits him. Madness of a very curious kind.
Deering committed the crime himself, the crime he pinned on Athelstan.
The very one. It completely reframes everything.
So now they know Deering is involved, but how? Is he consciously criminal, or is it this madness? This is where Elsie steps in, right?
Exactly. Elsie becomes the true detective here. She connects the commissioner's revelation with what she knows about Dering's gaps, his memory loss. She gets a tip from a laundress.
Yeah,
who works in the Gray's Inn building. The laundress mentions that this mysterious Mr. Edmund Gray is reliably there on Saturday afternoons.
So Elsie goes to the chambers.
She does.
Yeah.
On a Saturday. And there, she finally meets Edmund Gray.
What's he like? Does he like Deering?
Physically, yes. Tall, thin, fine features, clearly the same man. But the persona. A complete 180-degree flip from the rigid lawyer.
How so?
Gray is this articulate, passionate, socialist prophet. His followers call him the Master.
A socialist prophet. Deering.
It's astonishing. She finds out he preaches at a hall of science in Kentish Town. He holds court, leads something called a fraternal tea. He even lends small sums of money to poor barristers in the building. Total benevolence. The polar opposite of Dering's individualism.
What's his philosophy, this massive?
Elsie listens as he lays it out. It's this utopian vision, achieving the kingdom of heaven right here on earth by abolishing property altogether.
Abolishing property, but Dering's entire life is built on property law.
Exactly. Deering believes property is everything, the foundation of civilization. Gray believes property is the root of all evil. Gray even talks, chillingly, about the potential necessity of killing non-workers to make his communal industrial village succeed. A complete moral inversion.
This is the Ivory Gate, then? This false dream world Deering escapes into?
It has to be. The repressed parts of him, maybe guilt, maybe social conscience, who knows, have created this entire alternate personality.
Does Gray know about Deering? Does he realize they're the same person?
Elsie carefully asks him about his solicitor, Mr. Deering. Gray confirms, yes, Deering manages his affairs. He talks about how he's clean forgotten his old life, his time of darkness when he believed in property. He says he's trained himself to block those memories.
So, zero awareness.
None at all. He even refers to Deering as narrow, very narrow in his views. Talking about himself, it's incredible self-unawareness.
So the truth is out. Edmund Gray is Dering's alter ego, created by these fugue states. The lawyer becomes the revolutionary, committing the very crimes the lawyer would prosecute. Mind-blowing. #Tag V. The confession and restitution.
So Elsie knows the shocking truth, but she's smart. She realizes just confronting Deering, telling him he's mentally ill, probably won't work. He'll deny it. Checkley will cover for him, and Athelstan and George still won't be cleared.
Right. She needs proof. Undeniable proof.
Irrefutable proof. Signed by the forger himself, Edmund Gray.
How does she possibly get that?
With remarkable cleverness. She uses flattery. She approaches Gray, the master, again, tells him the world needs his autobiography, his wisdom, his philosophical journey. It must be preserved.
Playing to his ego as the prophet.
Exactly. But since he's too busy building the future, the industrial village, perhaps he could just write down a couple of key financial transactions for the historical record, detailing how he managed his resources for the cause.
And he buys it.
Hook, line, and sinker. He sits down and writes 2 full detailed statements and signs them. Edmund Gray.
What do the statements say?
The first one explains the 720-pound check from 8 years ago. He confirms he cashed it for his needs, funding his socialist schemes, presumably. And then, fascinatingly, he says he didn't spend all the 10-pound notes immediately, so he just put them back in Dering's safe.
Put them back. So the money was technically there all along, just moved.
Some of it, yes. Which explains why stopping the notes recovered the sum eventually. The second document is even more crucial.
The 38,000 pounds.
Yes. Gray details the transfer. He needed the capital to launch his big industrial village project. So he forged the letters, transferred the stocks and bonds to his own account. Standard procedure for him, managing his funds via his solicitor.
But Did he spend it? Is it gone?
Here's the clincher. He explains that when the village scheme hit a snag, he didn't need the capital immediately. So he took the physical share certificates and put them back in Daring's safe.
Back in the safe. So the property was never actually stolen and lost.
Exactly. It was just moved by the alter ego and then returned.
Yeah.
This completely exonerates George and proves his theory. The culprit had inside access, and the motive wasn't simple theft, but something ideological, bizarre.
Elsie now has signed confessions explaining both crimes. What's the next move?
The final confrontation. She gathers everyone in Daring's office. Daring himself, the suspicious Sir Samuel, her mother, Mrs. Arundel, her sister Hilda, George, Athelstan, and a very nervous-looking Checkley.
She controls a whole scene, I imagine.
Completely. She takes charge. First, she systematically dismantles Checkley's web of lies. She brings in witnesses, Freddie Carstone and George, to prove Athelstan's supposed profligate life was pure invention. She explains the imitation handwriting was just office joking.
Destroying Checkley's credibility piece by piece.
Utterly. Then she reads Athelstan's letter, the one sending the £12,000 trust for her, proving his absolute honor, his lack of any conceivable motive for theft. Sir Samuel is visibly shocked, realizing how wrong he's been.
Does Athelstan say anything to his family?
Yes, there's a moment of reconciliation. He tells his mother and Hilda that the 8 years of exile, the injustice, all forgotten, all forgiven. It's incredibly moving.
And then the confession.
Then Elsie drops the bomb. She reads Edmund Gray's 2 signed statements aloud. The £720 confession, the £38,000 confession. She forces Mr. Daring, the man of law, the man of property, to sit there and hear his own actions described in detail.
Does that persona surface?
It seems so. For a moment, Edmund Gray is present in Daring's office. He apparently confirms the documents, talks about managing his affairs, his industrial village. Daring is confronted by his other self.
How does Daring react hearing this, seeing this?
The truth finally breaks through. The unassailable proof of his fractured mind, his dual existence, he understands. He stands up and declares, "Half my time, I'm a madman. A madman."
A full admission.
Complete. He rises from the chair he'd occupied for 50 years and said simply, "My day is done." His career, his identity as the solicitor, it's over.
What happens immediately after to everyone else?
It resolves quickly. George and Athelstan are obviously instantly vindicated. Their names cleared.
And Checkley, the vile and malignant liar.
Exposed completely, he just creeps away. Back to his own office, apparently muttering all over, lamenting the loss of his salary, his position, justice of a sort. Athelstan is finally acknowledged as one of the worst used of men.
So what's the final outcome?
Mr. Daring retires, naturally. George Austen takes over the practice, becomes the partner, securing his and Elsie's future.
And the money? The £38,000?
All recovered. The shares were back in the safe. Dividends are sorted out. Financially, everything is restored.
And Daring, what becomes of him?
We get this really potent final image. Daring, having closed the door on his legal life, sits before the symbolic Ivory Gate. He's exchanged the cold reality of the lawyer for the, well, benevolent but totally illusory dream of the socialist prophet.
It's an incredible look at suppression, isn't it? How these deeply buried beliefs may be rebellion against the very system he upheld, manifested as this whole other life.
A life that committed the very crimes his primary self would have prosecuted. It's quite profound.
Which leaves us, and you the listener, with a final thought to chew on. Was Edmund Gray just a symptom of mental breakdown, stress, age?
Was he something more? Was he the inevitable, logical outcome of Daring's incredibly rigid, property-obsessed philosophy finally cracking under its own weight? Did the Ivory Gate reveal not just madness, but the hidden, maybe even violent revolutionary core that Daring had suppressed for decades? Something to think about.